What makes the Ice Age the best overall character in the entire game? The Ice Age is going to be one of the more interesting topics that I needed to talk about, and it's one of the videos that I've been just holding off for like months and months, and not even kidding. So I just decided to talk about the Ice Age and why in my opinion is going to be the best overall character in the entire game. Hello and welcome to another gameplay video. I'm your host JonNario, and this is going to be the Ice Age. So the Ice Age is just going to be a very interesting character that I needed to talk about, because it's going to be a character that is going to be just excellent all around, like overall. Meaning that it's going to be a character that is going to be good at early portions of the game with no class gem, at end game with class gem, and everything in between. That is going to be an overall character from 0 to max. Pretty much a character that you can just level up from nothing all the way to the maximum and still going to be effective at any portion of the game, at any content and everything. It's just going to be that type of character. That's what I mean by overall. And the Ice Age, I do feel, is the best overall character in the entire game for a couple of reasons. Number one, in dungeon grinding is definitely going to be an above average character. An above average character, it means that it's going to be good in terms of speed momentum, good damage multiplier, it has really good crowd control, it has good survivability because of freeze and also the ultimate ability, and it also grants a movement speed buff. I wouldn't say it's top in terms of like dungeon grinding, because the ice crash is going to be an ability that just takes a little bit. The ultimate ability only lasts for 5 seconds, so the movement speed buff isn't that much. The survivability is good, but it's not going to take over some of the other characters in terms of like speed and kill time. So in general, and even having high DPS doesn't necessarily matter a whole lot in like Uber 10 grinding, because obviously enemies die really quickly, so you want more one-shot, and your one-shot capabilities are going to be from the Ice Crush. So yeah, it is what it is. But even still, you can even use just the big chill with ult and arcane, and you can literally kill enemies one shot, like bosses one shot, and it's going to be very effective. But I wouldn't say that it's going to be just really good, like the best at dungeon grinding, because it isn't, and it still has some problems here and there. I already talked about the Ice Age in Uber 10, so if you want to check it out, you can go ahead and check it out. But the Ice Age is still going to be an above average character for dungeon grind. For Leviathan, it's top 3, including the Chloromancer reward. It is definitely on top 3 best overall character. Well, for the Leviathans, at early, mid, late, and end game for Leviathan is going to be excellent, because it's a long range character with good DPS, and it doesn't necessarily need any setup to actually do the high DPS. So it's a very easy to use class with high DPS, and it's a long range character, which is what you need. And then if we talk about delves, at low delve portal is going to be excellent. So having really good crowd control, it means that you can kill all enemies just one shot and just hit them all enemies around you with something like the big chill. You can do that. And then if we take into account that it also is going to be a character that has high DPS, so it's really good in dealing with bosses. But low delving, you generally don't need high DPS, because you kill bosses rather quickly anyways with any character. But it's still going to be a really good character with a movement speed buff, with good speed momentum, good crowd control, and it's going to be excellent for low delving. Mid delving, which is around 115, where you start grinding crystal level 4, is going to be still excellent, because if you are high PR, it means that you can one-shot regular enemies in floor, so it's going to be exactly the same as low delving. And then if we move on to bosses, the bosses you have high DPS, you can kill the bosses really quickly. And then if we move on into mid-high delving, you know, for solo, I mean, for solo play is going to be around 125. This is where you actually get your first really high spike in difficulty. That's where most characters stop one-shotting, even at max PR. So around 126, 127, that's where you actually see the first spike. With that being said, the character is still going to be very effective, because it still has the good crowd control. And if you're fighting against enemies that have pretty hefty amount of HP, let's just say gladiator enemies with magic resistance, you can still detonate them really quickly because of the class gem ability. For those who don't know how the class gem ability works, the class gem ability is based around how many hits you do with your basic attack against one particular enemy. So if you do hit 3 enemies with one basic, is going to put like a counter on those enemies, just one. So it's not going to be similar to like the Neon Ninja Shuriken, where it's going to be based around how many hits you do in general. So if you do hit 3 enemies with 1 basic attack, with the Neon Ninja, it means that you are going to get the full shuriken charges. However, with the Ice Age, you need to hit an enemy 3 times with the basic attack to each and every single enemy. And every time you hit an enemy 3 times with your basic attack, it will cause an explosion, dealing damage to all enemies around it. The damage is 6.3, not only to the enemy that you hit 3 times, but also to all enemies around it will take a 6.3 times damage AoE explosion. If you do hit 3 enemies at the same time, with 3 basic, is going to cause an explosion per enemy because the explosion has no cooldown for some reason. And the explosion, like I mentioned, is 6.3 per enemy. So that's 3 explosions, so that's 18.9 times damage multiplier on just one big burst in damage multiplier. And then if you take into account that if you're using ultimate ability, that means that that explosion is going to dish out double damage. That's why the character is just going to be the best at floor clearing at the higher delves. Because of this, that explosion is ridiculous. You can pull, let's just say you're in the 140 150, because again at 140 150 solo is the best character in the entire game for delving. So if you pull like 4 5 6 enemies at the same time, you hit them with a basic attack, that explosion can actually one-shot enemies at 140 and 150 like no problem. Even at like almost 160, you can one-shot enemies with that explosion. And if it doesn't one-shot, definitely for sure is a lot of damage that they will take. And that is what it makes the Ice Age so great at delving. And being a character that is so great at delving, while being an above average dungeon grinding and top 3 Leviathan, while being a character that doesn't necessarily need high stats to make it work because of ultimate ability granting damage, character level up granting critical hit, character level up granting energy regeneration, having a movement speed buff with the ult, having survivability with the ult and the big chill, and having high DPS because of the clutching ability, makes the overall package of a character. Again, if we move on into delving once more, and the high delving, you are going to notice that this character is going to destroy literally everything compared to all of the other characters because of this class gem ability. This class gem ability is what makes the Ice Age just so good for delving. And then not only that, it's a good ability for DPS because obviously it's a 6.3 times damage burst damage explosion that can be double just by using the ultimate ability by yourself. And not only that, the basic attack does really high damage. So with the basic attack, that is, if I do recall, that is 5.5 times damage multiplier per basic with ult, and then the explosion does 12.6. That is a lot of damage right there. And then the ultimate ability lasts for 5 seconds, and you can easily maintain that ultimate ability because the cooldown, I do believe, is 32 seconds, if I do recall correctly. Being a 32-second cooldown, it means it's one of the shorter cooldown. If you're using something like Chronomatic Emblem, it's a character that actually can easily maintain that ultimate ability. And that's what a lot of people do at the end game. They generally just use the Ice Age to pull all enemies towards it and just kill them one shot and then just keep moving on. And that's what people generally use in the 200 plus strategies. It's just pull enemies towards one block if they have like magic immunity, or if they just have like distance chill or whatever it might be. They pull all enemies towards a 1x1 block, a lot of enemies, and they just keep shooting those group of enemies so they can cause the explosion with the class gem and just destroy bosses like that. There's plenty of videos about it, so you can just go ahead and check it out. I'll leave one of them in the description down below from one of my pals and from Xbox, Crimson, which actually did a like 220 plus, I believe it's like 221 boss kill, and they did that strategy. So I'll leave that link in the description down below so you can just go ahead and check it out. The Ice Age just can do ridiculous stuff like that, and it's the only character that can do that. While, like I mentioned before, this is a character that is going to be effective at those things while being above average in dungeon grinding, while being a top 3 Leviathan killer. So it's an overall monster of a character, and it's a character that is going to work just as good at early game because the class gem, again, the class gem still has all of the properties. So if you're doing low delving by yourself, the Ice is just going to perform the best because it's just going to kill enemy with the burst damage. And then if we move on into something like early dungeon grinding, like I just mentioned, it still has all of the stats that I just mentioned: energy regeneration, damage increase from ult, movement speed increase, survivability, and all that good stuff. It's not going to be the best at dungeon grinding early portions of the game, but it's definitely going to be above average, which is what I just talked about the Ice Age. The Ice Age barely has any weaknesses, and that is what makes the character as the best overall character in the entire game. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think of the Ice Age? Do you think it's going to be the best overall character? If you don't think it's the best overall character in the entire game, and let me know which is the best overall character. I'm going to say that the Gunslinger, I wouldn't call the Gunslinger the best overall character, because the Gunslinger relies on the ultimate ability. It relies on just having high attack speed, which the Ice Age generally doesn't rely on it, because the ultimate ability grants max attack speed. It relies on just you yourself having high cooldown, and it's not good at dungeon grind, it's below average. And then if we move on into something like Dino Tamer, Dino Tamer is not necessarily good at late to end game delving, because DPS is not necessarily the highest. Still decent, but it's not necessarily the highest. And also same with the Neon Ninja. The Neon Ninja is excellent at dungeon grinding, but it's not going to be good at delving. The Revenant was the only character that had like a really strong case, but the Revenant is not so good at Leviathan, so there you go. And then yeah, pretty much every single character, even the Chloromancer is not good at dungeon grinding, even post rework. So the Ice Age is one of those characters that doesn't have any weaknesses, so that's what makes it the best overall character in the game. Thank you for watching, thank you for sticking around as always. Leave a like, subscribe for more content like this, and I hope to see you guys next time. Take care and keep on hunting, and keep this in mind, this is my own personal opinion. Do not get triggered, I'm not insulting anyone. I'm just talking about my own personal experience and my own personal opinion on which is going to be the best overall character in the game. That's it. So keep it civil in the comment section down below. That's all I gotta say. Take care.